Hi there, my name is Zack Misner, and this is my small group interaction presentation, kind of feedback of how my interaction with the group went. So, having never been in this scenario, it was interesting to uh, have an allotted amount of money and see how we each handled the situation at hand. I believe that this grouping would have been seen more as a team as opposed to a group because we ultimately had the same goal, making money with the money we were given, and we collaborated to make sure we profited. Initially, we were working together and suggesting stocks back and forth, but it ended up being each of us just kind of researching and finding things that we each saw as beneficial and then collaborating at the end to share our findings. Um, Due to the lack of members, Clinton and I had to each assume the role of observer, while the other solely came up with stocks to invest in and study trends to see how these would perform in the market. When cycling through these roles, there were certainly some that were more proactive than others, and then some that were a bit more conservative with their investments as to not want to lose money on something they deemed a risky investment. I believe that I made a lot more suggestions than Clinton, but I did not want to assume the role of leader and asked him for feedback as we began investing. Uh, some of the norms that emerged within the group were each of us kind of researching and getting back to one another about what we had found. One informal norm that was kind of that I became the note taker and started compiling all of our data within a spreadsheet. Our attendance was only that of staying in a call while we each kind of relayed information that we had found online, and then from there we kept it pretty brief due to our busy schedules. But we did not discuss much outside of these calls, but we were actively checking the stocks to kind of see how they were performing. The hardest part of the whole process was the forming phase because the others in our initial group went ahead and started the work without us in fear of not being able to complete the assignment in time. So meetings typically started with one of us, establishing what we were going to do for the entirety of the call and how we would best use our time effectively. Basically, one of us notated our findings while the other researched and found different stocks to invest in. There was no clear leadership role other than the necessity to kind of gather our data and make sure we had enough to present, but I would say it was successful, and after our roles were established and the bulk of the work was done, we just monitored our investments and discussed how we were doing. I wouldn't say there was any distinction in power or status. We both knew we had a clear objective and collaborated equally to get the job done. Clinton was fine with me taking somewhat of a leadership role, but I was very quick to always make sure we seemed to be on equal footing. I uh, I don't believe any sort of power play was ever used unless I was oblivious to the matter and maybe Clinton had been subject to something like this without my knowing. Um, Once again, I tried to make sure that his feedback was heard and that we were equal contributors. Uh, we kept a consistent pattern throughout the project, and there was no real room to form cliques due to the lack of members, but you could say that the other two in our initial group were quick to form a clique, and Clinton and I were left to form our own group in order to complete the assignment. Um, with the amount of work being asked of us, I felt that we were given ample time to do what was being asked of us, but it's hard to say how we would have reacted once we saw certain stocks rising and falling, and how we would have reinvested our money if given more time. I felt that we were cohesive unit, and we were able to work together even when our schedules were pretty stacked. As I stated previously, the forming stage, I think, in our initial group of four was probably the most difficult due to conflicting schedules, and it is safe to say we were stuck on this stage for quite some time until it was too late. Um, I would say that we lean towards a reflective thinking model due to us each researching the topic and examining our own thoughts and feelings before eventually sharing with the group. I don't believe either of us was trumping the other, and we were both able to express our thoughts freely. Um, if the efficacy of the group was to be measured in our investments, I would say we did well, but if we were to measure the initial four-person group, I would say we failed in the portions of the project where we were hung up to the point of, eventual fracture. Once we had been introduced to one another, it was easy to clearly communicate how we wanted things done, but people having conflicting ideas sometimes, and we have to keep the train moving, it led us to where we were. If I were to do this assignment again, I would love to have it done over a longer period of time so we can really see our investments fluctuate and have more regular meetings so we could discuss our investments together and either diversify our stock a bit more, see what everyone was up for. Overall, I'd say it was a pretty fun project and it was a good little peek into the business world. Thank you for your time.